When the detective called me last Tuesday morning to tell me they had finally arrested the real thieves who destroyed my family, I felt something I had not experienced in 7 years: vindication. For nearly a decade, my own parents blamed me for every missing dollar, every lost piece of jewelry, every unexplained disappearance in our Kansas City home. I became the family scapegoat, the daughter they could not trust, the sister who scared her younger brother. Today I'm 23 years old, and the truth has finally set me free. Before we dive into this journey of betrayal and redemption, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. If you have ever been wrongly accused by the people who were supposed to protect you, hit that like button. Subscribe and ring that notification bell, because this story will take you through the darkest corners of family dysfunction and show you how sometimes the people closest to us can become our greatest enemies. I grew up believing I lived in the perfect American family. Our 2-story colonial house in suburban Kansas City had white picket fences, a sprawling backyard with an oak tree perfect for climbing, and neighbors who waved from their morning jogs. My father, Robert, worked as a mechanical engineer at a local manufacturing company, while my mother, Linda, spent her days as a registered nurse at St. Luke's Hospital. My younger brother, Blake, 3 years my junior, worshipped me, like little brothers do. Those early years painted memories in golden hues. Summer evenings found our family gathered on the back porch, sharing homemade lemonade and watching fireflies dance across the lawn. Friday nights meant movie marathons in our basement den, complete with popcorn battles and debates over which film to watch next. Linda and I shared a special bond, spending Saturday afternoons at the mall, searching for the perfect outfit, then returning home to experiment with new recipes we found in her collection of cooking magazines. I excelled academically, maintaining a consistent place on the honor roll throughout middle school and into high school. My involvement with the varsity volleyball team brought home trophies and newspaper clippings that Linda proudly displayed on our refrigerator. Friends filled our house during sleepovers and study sessions, their laughter echoing through rooms that felt warm and welcoming. Robert would joke that our electric bill doubled whenever my friends visited because they never turned off lights, but his smile showed he genuinely enjoyed the youthful energy. Everything changed during my junior year of high school when I turned 16. Prom season approached with its typical teenage drama and excitement. I'd been dating Marcus Williams, a sweet senior who played guitar in the school jazz band, and we'd already purchased our tickets for the big night. The dress I wanted cost exactly $250, a steep price for a family that lived comfortably but carefully managed their finances. One Thursday morning in April, Linda left $200 cash on the kitchen counter, money she had withdrawn to cover my dress shopping trip that weekend. She told me during breakfast that she would drive me to the boutique after her shift ended Friday afternoon. I remember feeling grateful and excited, imagining myself in that flowing blue gown I had admired for weeks. The money vanished sometime between Thursday evening and Friday morning. Linda discovered its absence when she returned from work. Friday night, exhausted from a 12-hour shift in the cardiac unit. Only Blake and I had been home that day since spring break allowed us both time off from school. Blake, barely 13 years old, broke into tears when Linda questioned him about the missing cash. His genuine confusion and fear seemed to convince our parents immediately. That left me as the primary suspect. Linda's tired eyes filled with disappointment as she asked if I had taken the money to buy my dress early. Her question felt like a physical blow, knocking the breath from my lungs. I had never stolen anything in my life, not even a pack of gum from the convenience store. The accusation felt surreal, like being accused of a crime I could not imagine committing. Robert arrived home to find our family in chaos. Linda explained the situation while I stood in our living room, tears streaming down my cheeks, begging them to believe my innocence. Blake cowered on the staircase, watching his older sister being interrogated like a criminal. The disappointment in my father's eyes cut deeper than any punishment could have. My parents implemented immediate consequences. The prom dress shopping trip was canceled indefinitely. Instead of the beautiful gown I had dreamed about, I wore a borrowed dress from my cousin Sarah, a pale yellow creation that hung loosely on my frame and made me feel invisible at my own prom. Marcus tried to make the evening special, but the cloud of suspicion hanging over my head poisoned any attempt at teenage joy. Friends began asking uncomfortable questions about why my dress looked different from what I had described earlier. I invented stories about sudden financial difficulties, claiming my father had received an unexpected pay cut. The lies tasted bitter on my tongue, but they seemed easier than explaining that my own parents believed I was a thief. Our house transformed from a warm sanctuary into a cold battlefield of sideways glances and whispered conversations. Dinner conversations became strained affairs filled with forced politeness and underlying tension. Linda no longer invited me to join her shopping trips or cooking experiments. Blake started avoiding me, choosing to spend afternoons at friends' houses rather than risk being alone with his suspicious sister. I threw myself into proving my innocence through perfect behavior. Every chore was completed without being asked. My grades improved from excellent to flawless. I applied for a part-time position at Tony's Pizza Palace, a local restaurant where I could earn my own spending money and eliminate any temptation accusations. Each paycheck was deposited directly into a savings account that my parents monitored closely. Despite my efforts, the atmosphere of distrust settled over our family like fog that refused to lift. I felt like I was constantly performing for an audience that had already decided I was guilty. The easy laughter that once filled our home became a distant memory replaced by careful conversations and measured responses. 6 months later, just as I began hoping the theft incident might fade into family history, Linda's wedding ring disappeared from her jewelry box. The white gold band with its modest diamond had been a symbol of my parents' 20-year marriage, and its absence sent Linda into a state of panic that shook our entire household. Linda had been home alone that Tuesday afternoon, having switched to the night shift at the hospital to cover for a colleague's maternity leave. Blake was attending a 3-day scout camping trip at Lake Giacomo, and I was at volleyball practice followed by my shift at Tony's Pizza Palace. When Linda called me at work, hysterical and sobbing, I could barely understand her words through the phone. I rushed home to find Linda tearing apart her bedroom dumping drawers onto the floor and checking every possible hiding place. She had already searched the bathroom, the laundry room, and even the kitchen, convinced she might have removed the ring while washing dishes and forgotten its location. Her desperation was heartbreaking to witness, but what came next shattered something inside me forever. Without any evidence or logical reasoning, Linda accused me of stealing her wedding ring to sell for drug money. The accusation was so absurd, so completely disconnected from reality, that I actually laughed initially. I had never experimented with drugs, barely drank alcohol at parties, and had never shown any interest in activities that required quick cash. My laughter died quickly when I realized Linda was completely serious. Robert arrived home to find his wife in tears and his daughter being accused of theft again. This time, he demanded to search my bedroom immediately. They went through my belongings with the thoroughness of police investigators, checking book covers for hidden compartments, examining my jewelry box for signs of recently pawned items, and even looking through my school backpack and work uniform pockets. The search revealed nothing because there was nothing to find. However, the damage to our relationship was irreparable. The trust that should exist between parents and children had been completely severed, replaced by an investigative dynamic that poisoned every interaction we shared. Word of our family troubles began spreading through our tight-knit community. Linda confided in her prayer circle at church, describing her heartbreak over her daughter's supposed criminal behavior. The story evolved and expanded as it passed from person to person, eventually reaching the parents of my friends and teammates. I noticed the change immediately. Other mothers began watching me carefully when I visited friends' homes, and some parents found excuses to avoid letting their children spend time at our house. My position on the volleyball team became uncomfortable when parents started whispering at games, pointing me out as the girl whose own family could not trust her. The social isolation was devastating for a 16-year-old who had always been popular and well-liked. I began declining invitations to parties and group activities, not because I was not welcome, but because I could sense the underlying suspicion that now surrounded my reputation. My confidence eroded as I wondered constantly what people were saying about me when I was not present. Sleep became elusive as anxiety consumed my nights. I would lie in bed replaying every interaction with my parents, searching for clues about what I might have done wrong or how I could prove my innocence. Food lost its appeal and I dropped 15 pounds over 2 months, prompting concerned comments from teachers who noticed my changing appearance. Academic performance suffered despite my previous determination to excel. Concentration became impossible when my mind constantly raced with worry about my family situation. My grade point average dropped from a perfect 4.0 to a respectable but unremarkable 3.2, causing additional disappointment from parents who now questioned whether I was throwing away my educational opportunities, along with their trust. The psychological pressure intensified when I began researching kleptomania online, wondering if I might be suffering from some form of mental illness that caused unconscious stealing. The medical websites described symptoms and behaviors that seemed foreign to my experience, but my desperation to understand what was happening led me down rabbit holes of self-diagnosis and self-doubt. During my senior year, Blake received $150 for his 15th birthday from our maternal grandparents, who had driven down from Des Moines to celebrate with the family. The cash was meant to help Blake purchase a new bicycle he had been saving for throughout the summer months. Blake kept the money in his desk drawer, planning to combine it with his allowance savings to make the bicycle purchase the following weekend. On Thursday evening, he discovered the cash was missing. This time, there was no debate, no investigation, no consideration of alternative explanations. I was immediately declared guilty. Robert's reaction was swift and decisive. He demanded that I repay Blake's stolen birthday money within 1 week, threatening to refuse signing my college financial aid forms if I failed to comply. The ultimatum forced me to withdraw my entire savings from my Tony's Pizza Palace earnings money I had been accumulating for college textbooks and dormitory supplies. Blake's reaction hurt more than my parents' accusations. My little brother, who had once followed me around the house and begged to be included in my activities with friends, now looked at me with fear and disappointment. He started locking his bedroom door and hiding his belongings. When I was home, treating me like a dangerous stranger rather than his sister. The weight of continuous accusations and social isolation pushed me toward a breaking point I had never imagined possible. I began considering whether my family might be better off if I simply disappeared, removing the source of their problems and starting fresh somewhere else. The thought scared me enough to seek help from the school counselor, though I was too embarrassed to explain the specific details of my situation. College provided temporary escape from the suffocating atmosphere at home, but the damage to family relationships continued to fester during my visits. Kansas University offered me a partial academic scholarship, allowing me to study psychology while living in campus dormitories 3 hours away from Kansas City. The distance felt like a protective barrier, giving me space to breathe and develop relationships with people who knew nothing about my supposed criminal history. However, the fragile peace I had built came crashing down during Thanksgiving weekend of my sophomore year. I had been looking forward to the holiday break, hoping that time and distance might have allowed my family to reconsider their harsh judgments about my character. Linda's antique silver necklace, a family heirloom passed down from her grandmother, vanished from her jewelry box on Thanksgiving night. The delicate chain with its intricate Victorian pendant had been worn by 4 generations of women in Linda's family, making its sentimental value immeasurable beyond its modest monetary worth. I had arrived home Wednesday evening, carrying my laundry bag and a small suitcase packed with gifts I had carefully chosen for each family member. The house felt tense immediately, but I attributed the awkwardness to the normal adjustment period that occurs when college students return home to different routines and expectations. Thursday's Thanksgiving dinner proceeded normally until Linda went upstairs to change from her cooking clothes into something more appropriate for evening dessert with extended family members who were expected to arrive later. Her scream from the bedroom brought the entire household running upstairs to find her standing over her open jewelry box, sobbing uncontrollably. The necklace was gone, along with any remaining hope for family reconciliation. This time Linda's accusations were immediate and vicious. She claimed I had stolen the heirloom to sell for drug money, despite having no evidence that I used drugs or needed money for any purpose. My carefully planned college budget and steady part-time income meant I had no financial pressures that might motivate theft. Robert demanded to search my belongings before I could react or protest. They dumped my suitcase onto the guest room floor, examining every item I had brought home from college. When they discovered a different silver necklace among my possessions, one I had purchased with scholarship money from a local jewelry store near campus, they declared it proof of my guilt. My explanation that the necklace was a legitimate purchase made with my own money fell on deaf ears. They refused to examine the receipt I had saved or to call the store to verify my story. In their minds, the presence of any silver jewelry confirmed their suspicions about my character and motivations. The confrontation escalated beyond anything we had previously experienced. Robert ordered me to pack my belongings and leave their house, immediately stating that I was no longer welcome until I confessed to the thefts and sought professional help for my supposed psychological problems. The harshness of his ultimatum shocked everyone present, including Blake, who watched from the hallway as his sister was banished from the family. I spent Thanksgiving night sleeping in my car in the dormitory parking lot, waiting for the building to reopen so I could return to my room early. The November cold seeped through the windows, but the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the emotional devastation of being rejected by my own family during what should have been a celebration of gratitude and togetherness. Blake sent me a text message later that night, apologizing for our parents' behavior while admitting he could no longer trust me either. His words, meant to be kind, actually hurt worse than outright hostility would have. The little brother who had once looked up to me now saw me as a dangerous person who needed to be kept at arm's length for his own protection. The isolation became complete during the following months. Phone calls home were answered coldly, if at all. Christmas break was spent working extra shifts at a campus bookstore rather than attempting another family visit that would likely end in disaster. Spring break found me volunteering at a local shelter, choosing service over the beach trip my roommates enjoyed, partly because I could not afford the vacation, but mostly because I had nowhere else to go. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket that became harder to lift each morning. My academic performance stabilized, but the joy I had once found in learning psychology disappeared as I became too familiar with my own mental health struggles. The irony of studying human behavior while feeling completely disconnected from healthy human relationships was not lost on me. Ms. Patricia Williams, a counselor at the University Student Mental Health Center, noticed my declining engagement during a mandatory wellness check that all scholarship students underwent each semester. Her gentle questions about my family relationships opened floodgates I had been trying to keep closed for years. Through months of therapy sessions, Ms. Patricia helped me understand that carrying guilt for crimes I did not commit was destroying my ability to form healthy relationships and pursue my educational goals. She encouraged me to consider that my family's behavior might indicate problems beyond my control rather than character defects within myself. The breakthrough moment came when Ms. Patricia suggested that I invest in discovering the truth rather than continuing to accept blame for unexplained events. Using money from my academic scholarship refund, I hired Marcus Johnson, a private investigator who specialized in domestic theft cases. Marcus began his investigation by interviewing neighbors and examining the timeline of each theft incident. His methodical approach revealed a disturbing pattern that my family had either failed to notice or chosen to ignore. Every single theft had occurred on days when Linda was home alone, during hours when Robert was at work and Blake and I were attending school or other activities. The discovery felt like stepping into sunlight after years of living in darkness, but it also opened frightening questions about what the truth might reveal about my mother's behavior and the real identity of the person who had been stealing from our family for years. Marcus Johnson's investigation took 3 months to produce concrete evidence, but the results exceeded even my most optimistic hopes for vindication. Using surveillance footage from neighboring houses and careful analysis of the theft timeline, he identified David Thompson, a 34-year-old construction worker with a previous criminal record, as the person responsible for the missing items. The most shocking revelation was not David's identity, but his relationship to our family. Marcus discovered that Linda and David had been having an affair for over 3 years, meeting regularly at our house during David's lunch breaks, when Robert was at work and Blake and I were in school. Linda had given David a key to our home, allowing him unlimited access to steal cash and jewelry that she then helped him sell to support his gambling addiction. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Marcus had photographs of David entering and leaving our house on multiple occasions that corresponded exactly with the dates of thefts. He had bank records showing Linda depositing unusual amounts of cash that matched the missing money from our house. Most damning of all, he had audio recordings of Linda and David discussing their plan to blame me for the thefts to deflect suspicion from their relationship. Learning that my own mother had deliberately destroyed my reputation and relationships to protect her affair partner felt like discovering that gravity had suddenly reversed, making everything I thought I knew about reality completely wrong. The woman who had given birth to me, who had taught me to ride a bicycle and helped me with homework, had chosen her criminal lover over her innocent daughter without a moment's hesitation. I struggled with the decision of how to handle this information. Part of me wanted revenge, wanted to see Linda and David face the consequences of their actions, while our entire community learned the truth about who had really been stealing from our family. Another part of me still loved my mother despite her betrayal and wanted to find a way to heal our relationship without destroying our family completely. Miss Patricia helped me understand that my primary responsibility was to myself and my own healing process, not to protecting people who had failed to protect me. With her support, I decided to confront Linda directly before involving the police, giving her an opportunity to confess and potentially minimize the legal consequences of her choices. The confrontation took place in our family living room on a Saturday afternoon when Robert was playing golf and Blake was at a friend's house. I brought Marcus Johnson with me as a witness, along with copies of all the evidence he had gathered. Linda's face went white when she realized what we had discovered, and her initial denials quickly crumbled under the weight of photographic proof. Linda broke down completely sobbing as she confessed to the affair and the thefts. She begged me not to involve the police, claiming that David had manipulated her into helping him steal from our family. According to her story, David had threatened to tell Robert about their affair unless she cooperated with his theft schemes, making her feel trapped between protecting her marriage and protecting her family's belongings. I recorded the entire confession on my phone, ensuring that Linda's admission of guilt would be preserved regardless of whether she attempted to retract her statements later. Her tears and apologies felt hollow after years of watching me suffer for crimes she knew I had not committed, but they also provided the closure I needed to move forward with involving law enforcement. The arrest took place the following Tuesday morning when David arrived at our house for what he thought was a routine rendezvous with Linda. Instead, he found Detective Sarah Martinez and 2 uniformed officers waiting in our driveway with handcuffs and a warrant for his arrest on charges of burglary, theft, and fraud. David confessed immediately when presented with the evidence, apparently believing that cooperation might lead to reduced charges. His statement to police confirmed every detail of Linda's confession, including their 3-year affair and the systematic theft of cash and jewelry from our house. He also admitted to pressuring Linda to blame me for the thefts, knowing that my parents would be more likely to believe their younger daughter was lying than to suspect infidelity. Linda was arrested later that same day at the hospital where she worked, though her cooperation with police and lack of a criminal record led to a plea agreement that avoided jail time in exchange for community service restitution payments and mandatory counseling for gambling addiction that had apparently contributed to David's financial pressures. The news of arrests and confessions spread through our community like wildfire, completely reversing the reputation damage I had suffered for years. People who had whispered about my supposed criminal behavior suddenly wanted to apologize for their suspicions, though their newfound sympathy felt too little and too late to repair the relationships that had been destroyed. Robert was devastated by the revelation that his wife had betrayed their marriage while allowing their daughter to be blamed for crimes she did not commit. He moved into a hotel immediately after Linda's arrest, beginning divorce proceedings that would eventually split their assets and end their 23-year marriage. His guilt about failing to believe in my innocence was profound, but it could not erase the years of damage that his suspicions had caused to our father-daughter relationship. Blake, now 18 and preparing for college himself, struggled to understand how our mother could have chosen her affair partner over her own children. His apology to me was heartfelt and genuine, but we both understood that rebuilding our sibling relationship would require time and effort that might extend well into our adult years. Rather than focusing on revenge or attempting to recover the lost years with my family, I chose to channel my energy into positive changes that could benefit other people who had experienced similar injustices. I transferred to the University of California, Los Angeles, to pursue a master's degree in counseling psychology, specializing in family trauma and false accusation recovery. The support group I started on campus attracted 12 other students who had experienced false accusations from family members, ranging from theft to more serious crimes. Our weekly meetings provided safe spaces for sharing experiences, developing coping strategies, and rebuilding self-esteem that had been damaged by the people who should have protected us. My relationship with Robert improved gradually as he worked to overcome his guilt through family therapy and genuine efforts to understand the psychological damage his accusations had caused. We met monthly for dinner, carefully rebuilding trust and connection that had been severed by years of suspicion and disappointment. Blake visits me in Los Angeles whenever his college schedule permits, and our conversations reveal a young man who has learned important lessons about critical thinking and the dangers of accepting accusations without evidence. His experience watching his family fall apart has made him more empathetic and less quick to judge others based on incomplete information. Linda and I have had no contact since her confession, though Robert occasionally updates me on her progress through court-mandated counseling and community service. I have forgiven her not because she deserves forgiveness, but because carrying anger and resentment would prevent me from building the healthy relationships and successful career that represent the best revenge against those who tried to destroy my future. The psychology practice I plan to open after graduation will specialize in helping families recover from false accusations and rebuilding trust after betrayal. My own experience with injustice has given me insights into trauma recovery that no textbook could provide, and I believe that helping other families avoid the mistakes mine made will give meaning to the pain I endured. Sometimes people ask whether I regret the years of suffering that resulted from my mother's choices, and my answer surprises them. Those experiences taught me resilience, independence, and the ability to trust my own judgment even when everyone around me insisted I was wrong. They also led me to my calling in psychology and my passion for helping other people navigate family crises. The most important lesson I learned is that forgiveness does not require forgetting, and healing does not require maintaining relationships with people who have proven themselves untrustworthy. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves is to walk away from toxic situations and build new lives based on honesty, respect, and genuine care for each other's well-being. Have you ever been wrongly accused by someone you trusted? How did you handle the situation, and what advice would you give to others facing similar challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let me know if this story resonated with your own experiences. If you found value in hearing about my journey from victim to survivor, please like this video and share it with anyone who might benefit from knowing they are not alone in facing family betrayal. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about overcoming adversity and finding strength in the most difficult circumstances. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story, and I wish you courage and wisdom in whatever challenges you may be facing in your own family relationships.